afternoon, whenever you're listening to this, welcome to the internet's most sophisticated wrestling podcast, discussing the weekly aspects of it all, right here on
the Bald Monkey Wrestling Podcast.
You know, intros be damned, because I need to get something off of my chest here. There is a right way and a wrong way to book an angle. And never in this world have we ever seen an angle booked worse than Kofi Kingston getting picked up within 2 seconds of his match starting, getting F5'd, and getting 3 counted. That is, first of all, unbelievable, and second of all, the worst way you possibly could have booked the match. For God's sakes, WWE, at least have Kofi go in there and get a couple shots in, or if you don't want him to get any shots in, let Brock just grab him and beat the living hell out of him for at least a minute or two before you have him pin him. The angle it made no sense. Everybody knew he was going to lose. We all were talking about it. Podcasts all over were talking about him losing. And then you see these people like on social media that make these comments that go, "Why are you guys hating so much about Kofi Kingston losing? It was necessary." Well, we all knew he was going to lose. We knew it was necessary. But you didn't have to do it that way. So that's why everybody's so angry. It's not because like people didn't think he might actually win. There wasn't a whole lot of people that thought he was going to win that match. But to put him away in a match that lasted under 10 seconds, are you kidding me?
I agree. It's like they just wasted the last 8 months of Kofi being champion just to bring some new UFC guy in there and put the belt on Brock that much quicker. Let him have that 5-minute stare down at the end.
I don't even have a problem with that part. That's the thing, right? Fox, they want to push the wrestling angle as like this is a real sport. So it makes a lot of sense. Bring Cain Velasquez out there. They had Tyson Fury at the show. Like, these are big, big moments for people that are not just hardcore wrestling fans. Because we've seen a lot of celebrities and a lot of, like, former athletes that pivot into wrestling. So we know the ups and the downs that comes with that. So, yeah, I'm not going to be super stoked for Cain Velasquez, and I'm not going to be super stoked for Tyson Fury. But somebody out there, some person who doesn't really watch a lot of wrestling, but maybe watches UFC, maybe watches other MMA, like, they're pumped about that. And if that was the audience that they were trying to get, then I don't have a problem with the angle. I have the problem with, saying, "Oh, Kofi, you've been this great champion, and we're going to reward you with, not even letting you get a move in."
Oh, yeah, it was a slap in Kofi's face. But afterwards, I did some digging around, and apparently Cain Velasquez has been actually wrestling for a couple of months, almost a year now, doing a bunch of like lucha libre stuff. I've seen half of one of his matches. He's not the greatest, but he's still very green. But he's got a lot of power, and he likes to jump off the top rope. Apparently,
he has such an odd body, though. Like, did you guys notice that? Like, he doesn't look like a professional anything. He just looks like like an odd-bodied guy walking down the street. Like, he's a big dude and everything, but is he believable enough that he's going to be the one that takes out Brock?
You could have said the thing.
Yes. You know why? Because he was the last person to take out Brock in MMA.
He didn't just take Brock out. He brutalized Brock.
He brutalized him.
I know. I went back and watched it for, purposes of being able to speak to it, but it doesn't seem like in professional wrestling you would look at that guy. He almost looks like what Corbin looked like when he first came in, right? Because Corbin was that same kind of odd body at first, and they kind of molded him into what he is now. But I don't know. I can't imagine this guy really coming in and dominating the wrestling scene.
First off, it's King Corbin.
No,
Get it right, Chris.
no, it's not. It's the STD.
Yeah, it's STD.
Let's get it right.
That's
It's
true.
the
I'm
STD.
sorry. Super tough dude, right?
Absolutely. So we do have Steven here. We have Steven the Boss Hill is here with us today. We've got Christopher here today. We've got Captain Chuckles here today, and of course I am Big Baby Jimmy. Welcome to the Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast. I didn't do that at the beginning. You know why? Because I was annoyed. I was annoyed at the.
He gets annoyed. Yes.
Yes, we've learned this. But we only have Steven here for a little bit, so I definitely wanted to jump in and get our picks done really quickly.
All those picks we have to make. Yes,
They're not going to take very long.
That's really sweet of you, Jimmy.
Yeah, they're not going to take very long because there is exactly 4 matches. But I'm going to pick a match that's probably not even on there. I'm going to say a match that's not on there, and I'm going to start off with that one. So I think that this is tough though, because I could see there being a match between Shinsuke Nakamura and The Miz at this show.
Oh, look at your heart. Okay,
And,
go ahead.
and I could also see the more realistic one, which would be Shinsuke Nakamura versus Ali. So I'm going to pose it as like, I don't know, either one of those. Just as a guess. I think
Shinsuke versus someone.
Shinsuke versus The Miz or Ali. I think it's going to be one of those. So I want us to pick that hypothetical match because I do think that that's going to be at that pay-per-view.
Do you think you get the same thing with Cedric Alexander and AJ Styles, maybe?
Maybe. I don't know. I think that match could make some sense. Yeah.
Or even a cruiserweight title match, possibly?
Did they announce when Leo Rush and Drew Gulak were supposed to have their match?
Wednesday.
Yeah, so I don't think it's happening this weekend.
You think we get a Rusev Bobby Lashley match?
No,
tonight,
it's
or
too,
is that
it's
gonna
too
be
early for that. It's too early for that, I think.
It's not. No, you know what? You're wrong. It's not too early for that. Immediately squash this nonsense. Like, get this match over with and move on because this is a ridiculous.
Oh,
storyline.
we need to talk about the storyline at some point because
It was
we are
too early
not
to bring
on the
Kane
same
in.
page.
Why is it too early to squash this?
We are not on the same page with this, Chris.
It is so weird.
This is like old school. This is old school Attitude Era stuff that I actually really like.
You're wrong.
They're going for it, and they're kayfabing the crap out of it. It's been great.
I've got to admit, even with all the social media, they've really been dedicated to it because Lana and Rusev started about 3 weeks ago, started not showing each other on social media. And then this happened, and they've been very good at not mentioning each other or showing each other at all, even though they live together still. It's very, I like the dedication this time around.
Yeah, they're going for it. Okay, all right, Hell in a Cell. So I'm gonna throw this out there. I think that one of the matches, we'll do a couple of those matches though. So let's say if they have AJ Styles versus Cedric Alexander, who is winning that match? Steven the Boss Hill, go for it.
I think it's time for AJ to drop it and focus on something.
So Cedric Alexander then.
Yeah, I just didn't want to say that part out loud.
Chris, who would win that match?
Yeah, I agree with Steven. I feel like it's time for AJ to move on to possibly even another show because it seems like there's a lot of guys in that promo package for SmackDown.
Oh
So
my, everybody.
I'm gonna go with
No. I would. I hate to say this, depending on how the draft goes, I would love to see AJ go to NXT.
Oh my
for
God,
a run.
yes. Yeah.
Yikes.
Let's build a heck of a squad down there to go up against Undisputed Era.
Well, not just that, to go up with AEW on Wednesday nights. You put him in there, you have him having matches with Adam Cole any of the guys from Undisputed Era, Pete Dunne. Like, there's so much you could do down there that he's never done before.
Yeah, and Finn Balor still.
But the whole club in NXT.
Yeah.
Man.
Nah, I mean, it'd be interesting, but that's a drastic move to go up against AEW.
Oh man, that would
So,
be rough.
That's almost like
I would want
bringing
to
in
watch
a
it live.
UFC fighter, to go up against AEW. Like bringing in these big names to go up against AEW.
No, the UFC fighter was to bring in ratings for Fox so they'd be happy with it since they didn't know what the hell's going on.
I'm not happy.
You don't need to be. Chuck, who would win that match?
I agree. I think it's time for AJ, no matter what their plans are with him, to drop the belt if the match does happen. So yeah, I would go with Cedric taking over.
And I would agree. So, ladies and gentlemen listening to the Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast, remember, this is a hypothetical match. I don't know if it's happening, but we all believe that AJ Styles would lose that match if that were a match. Okay, next one is going to be Shinsuke Nakamura versus Ali or The Miz. I mean, those are the two that make the most sense, I think, from the story perspective. So you can choose any of those three people. I don't think it's going to be a three-way match, but, which one do you think it's going to be and who would win?
I just don't think they're ready to take it off Shinsuke. I think when he does drop it, he's going to drop it the same as.
Ooh, that would be interesting. That's an interesting twist.
And I'm going the same direction, which I think Shinsuke is going to win, but I think it's because they're bringing in your boy. They're bringing in Mr. Impact eventually, so they need to keep it on Shinsuke so that he can come back and tag team with Miz to eventually turn on Miz.
I like your mindset because they did announce that he was signed. They didn't say when and where he's popping up, but he has been.
It just makes all the sense in the world that Shinsuke's got an extra person, and the numbers game is on his side, and for Miz to bring in one of his old buddies for the numbers game, and then eventually just turn on each other because it'll be a great feud with Miz being a face right now, and Morrison being a great heel.
Mr. Chuckles.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. Shinsuke, he's going to keep it. Again, in the hypothetical match of the 4-match pay-per-view, which seems like a complete and utter afterthought of this week of wrestling. Shinsuke is going to win it if he does.
And I am going to go with the hypothetical matchup of The Miz versus Shinsuke Nakamura, and The Miz wins. And instead of doing the angle that Chris is talking about, we just go straight into John Morrison being the best heel that he can be right out of the gate. Miz wins, and here comes Morrison. Let's go. All right, so now on to real matches on the card.
Air quotes, real matches.
We'll start out with Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns versus Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, the tag team formerly known as the Bludgeon Brothers.
Could this possibly be one of the worst pay-per-views of all time if they don't add anything, no matter what happens in matches? Could it be?
Depends how crazy the matches are.
That's a bold statement. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and think about some bad pay-per-views. Some pay-per-views where titles didn't change and there wasn't enough storyline built up. But I think the stipulation of the Hell in the Cell will help the pay-per-view. There's 2 Hell in the Cell matches that they can make an hour long if they want to.
And I think
so that obviously helps the situation.
They're going to drag those matches out. They were only advertising 4 for a reason. They normally always have at least 7 on the card. They're only doing 4 for that reason.
Maybe they've got some tricks up their sleeves. They're trying to surprise everybody. But hey, Chuckles, in a world where you have a wrestling company that had a pay-per-view where a person like was a Yokozuna beat was it Bret? Who was it? Did he beat Bret Hart? Was that who he beat? Wow, I'm like totally fogging here. whatever the WrestleMania where
You're correct. Yokozuna beat Bret Hart, and then Hogan came out and won the belt when it wasn't even a match.
like
10 seconds.
3 minutes later or something like that. It's like that's called the worst the worst of all time.
It was like WrestleMania 7 or 8, something like that. But yeah, you're right.
That's the worst thing, brother.
9.
Yeah, but
Thank you for correcting me on that, Chuck.
okay, so again, Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns versus tag team formerly known as the Bludgeon Brothers.
I think the Bludgeon Brothers.
Bludgeon Brothers. Okay. All right.
Because of Daniel Bryan. I think he's gonna make another twist, and it's gonna end up being the three of them beating down on Roman Reigns by the end of it. They're gonna drag this out longer to have Roman versus Daniel at a bigger paper.
Yeah. Oh, sadly, I could see that being true. Chris?
Yeah, it we didn't think that Rowan was going to win at Clash necessarily, but the direction they're going with it, bringing back Harper and how strong the Bludgeon Brothers were before, it makes all the sense in the world for them to win and have another big win over, two big names. So why not just drag this out longer and let the Bludgeon Brothers get another win? I mean, however they got to do it. I mean, it doesn't even have to be clean. So I guess Bludgeon Brothers.
Well, I apparently don't have the faith in WWE as you guys do, as I would love to see Steven's angle, and I would, in my heart of hearts, I hope Rowan and Harper win. However, I feel WWE is going to give me a punch in the face and have Roman Reigns yet again win a match here, and him and Daniel Bryan are going to take this one tonight.
Yes, there's this recent history of Reigns and Bryan like just losing a lot, with the exception of this past week or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I don't like that angle. I think that angle at this point seems silly to me, to have Daniel Bryan be the mastermind and to be a work, and then it's leading to Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan. Like, it's not an uninteresting storyline, but I don't think it's interesting enough. I think a lot of these matches have almost lost their value when you talk about this draft getting ready to happen. So my
I
stance,
lost value for this Roman Reigns thing 3 days after it started. I was over it. It's retarded.
yeah, and I feel like the only way to cleanly break the story is to have Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan just win and just end it. So I'm not saying, I don't want that to kill the push, though, of the other two guys. But that being said, if they just win and then they just get drafted somewhere else, then, they can be monsters somewhere else. So,
Well, let them win. Let Roman be like down in the dumps, questioning if he should do this anymore since he can't beat anybody, and then let this be the frustration that gives you the heel turn for him, the proper heel turn.
I mean, that might not be a bad way of doing it.
And leave him on SmackDown for Fox to have the ratings, and let him be a heel, and just let him, almost like the whole Brock Lesnar treatment, just let him brutalize people. Maybe even have him and Brock be on the same page for a little while.
Maybe he can beat Brock Lesnar in 4 seconds.
With a spear.
Superman punch.
Definitely the Superman punch. I'm picking Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan to win, though. I'm not. No more heart picks, man. I'm just picking with my brain.
You have no heart.
Yeah. SmackDown Women's Championship: Bayley versus Charlotte Flair.
My picking tonight is going to be crazy for these two women's matches because I think the same kind of outcome. I think both women drop the belt. So Charlotte wins this one.
Like Charlotte has been crushing Bayley on every other show she can right now. I mean, she's tapping out, she's pinning her, which leads me to believe that Bailey's going to win this match. Now, I don't think she's going to win it cleanly, which is going to be the theme of the night, it seems like. But um, she'll probably have to cheat like she did at Clash, or figure out a way to cheat, or figure out a way to get out of there. Maybe with a DQ. We haven't done a DQ match yet with her, but based on what I expect later in the night, that'd be kind of redundant. I'm gonna go with Bailey, um, just because I think this storyline's not over yet. I think eventually Charlotte takes the belt from her, but they're gonna drag this out. So
Well,
Bailey.
like you said, you don't think the storyline's done yet. I feel like the storyline's been overshadowed by the other end because they've been brought in to be the tag partners in the Becky versus Banks feud, and then it just kind of fizzled into them having a match.
Well, to your point, I feel like the tag team division in the women, which I think is I'm a broken record at this point, is not built the right way, and they keep bringing in Becky and Charlotte to try to help it, which makes sense, and bringing in Sasha and Bailey to help it, which makes sense, but they keep going back and forth to singles matches. So, like your point, it's overshadowed by this tag team stuff. But putting it on Charlotte makes all the sense in the world when SmackDown gets really its run going on Fox. I mean, she's the bigger name. So eventually, I think Charlotte's going to take it. But I think Bailey's going to find another cheap way to win it as she keeps moving towards this heel Bailey.
Yeah, I agree on this one. I was toying back and forth. I was like, I was in Steven's camp earlier this morning when I was thinking about it, about both the women losing the belts and everything, and I was like, well, I mean, both of them losing kind of doesn't make sense to me. Um, if you still want, Banks and Bailey to go up against Cross and Bliss at some point for the belts, which I think is going to happen sooner or later. Um, so yeah, I'm going with Bailey. This is going to go on for, like Chris said, go on for a little while longer, and then eventually, down the road, Flair is going to take it. And after what happened on, this week, um, with Bailey losing, in the match, the tag team match, I think she's going to take it on today. I was going to say Sunday, but today is Sunday. So, yeah, today.
You know what makes this an extra challenging pick, and what makes everything feel extra challenging at this point is them trying to do this draft thing, and them trying to claim that rosters will be, these rosters will be pushed apart and they're not going to interact with each other necessarily. I don't see how that makes sense with how much Fox is demanding, because what are you turning Raw into at that point? Because
It doesn't make sense.
how do you not put all 4 of these women on SmackDown at that point? So how do you then get that Raw belt out of the equation? Because surely they're going to have Becky Lynch on SmackDown, right? It's Becky
That's
Lynch.
what the advertising looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, so the only way to make this work, and I think I'm going to agree with I have to agree with Steven here, is if you're gonna separate these women at all, you have to flip the belts, because what I see them having Bailey and Sasha Banks on Raw, and then having Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch on SmackDown. So that requires Bailey to drop the belt to Charlotte Flair. So that's why I'm picking that. Next match, Hell in the Cell Women's Championship match between Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. Oh, look, another women's match.
I hate to say it, but I think Banks is finally going to win it. She might drop it back to somebody on Monday or on Friday next week, as her track record used to be. But I think Banks gets it, but I think Bailey gets involved at some point. To Chris's point earlier, I don't think any of it's clean. I think it's going to end up being dirty, cheating. Like she's going to try to pull the Eddie Guerrero card since he's her hero. She's going to.
Sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is the one that I think could change hands. I suspect this one over the other one, because to both of your points, I feel like Becky's been promoted pretty hardcore on SmackDown, and you can get her over there pretty quickly in the draft without the belt. You don't necessarily have to do that. You can obviously have her drop the belt on one of the SmackDown episodes to double promote it, draft her over there and have her have a Raw title match on SmackDown because they're just shitting on Raw entirely. So I'll stick with that and then go with Sasha Banks in this. Because it's Hell in the Cell, it's going to have to change hands no matter what, I think, because there's not going to be any kind of DQ or anything, you would think. Here, hint, hint, coming soon. But yeah, Sasha Banks.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna say Becky Lynch retains it just because they love Becky Lynch, and I'm not really sure where this whole four horsewomen thing is going later on. With the draft imminent, and I don't know. I'm just saying Lynch.
Well, I've been thinking about it, and with the whole moving her to Fox and how they like their UFC,
Rousey.
this match could end in a DQ because Rousey comes out and takes them all out. All four horsewomen are in there fighting, and then Rousey's music hits, and she comes out and clears house, and that's how that match gets.
Be interesting to see who's the last match of the night, but I would suspect it's not going to be this match.
No, I don't
God,
think it would
no.
be either, but Rousey's gonna be on Total Divas, so she's still in the family and the framework, and she's on that show 911, and they just finished filming season 1, so she's got some open time right now where I think it could happen.
So we get a no finish in the women's match.
I don't know about a no. I mean, a flip. I mean, that makes the flip make sense, right? Because it's a no DQ match, no rules or whatever. So Rousey could. Well, okay. So you're saying she
Well,
beats
there's
up
supposed to be no
everybody.
DQ,
I
but I remember when
I don't see the reasoning behind having Ronda Rousey at this point beating up Sasha Banks. I don't know that you need to push the four horsewomen angle like that initially, but I can see it for why you want to take the belt off of Becky Lynch.
I don't think she's coming out there to attack. It could be one of those she's coming out there to get Charlotte and Becky, and she grabs Bailey and Banks and rips them off of them to attack them. So they're like, "Oh no!" and they jump in too, and it becomes just a free for all fight against Ronda, and Ronda takes them out.
Be a cool way to have everybody in the ring and just Ronda standing above everybody.
And it would take
Like
a big chunk of time to be able to do that with your only 4 matches on the card.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be Banks personally. I think that makes the most sense, and I think again, I think you're kind of hitting in the right area where we could say we're separating some of this the less popular but still kind of popular talent in Bailey and Banks, and we're keeping them on Raw. And these are our actual opportunities to then move certain people up to the main roster that are UFC-esque people, and then help them bring in that fan base that they're looking for. So you can have Rousey kind of, intermittently show up. You can have Baszler eventually go up there and, try to push this angle a little bit more, because I mean, even the graphics they were using on Friday night, like they're pushing it like almost like it's MMA. So we'll see what happens. And that brings us to our last match of the night, the one that makes all the kiddies and all the world nervous as hell. Is a Hell in a Cell championship match between Seth Rollins and The Fiend Bray Wyatt.
This one's hard for me because the obvious choice is the Fiend's going to win, but I feel like they're going to pull the Fiend to SmackDown. So unless they flop the titles from show to show, or there's not actually a split roster, like obviously it's probably going to happen. I don't know if the Fiend wins or if he wants to win. Maybe he just renders Seth unconscious and then laughs and disappears or something. Or maybe Strowman gets involved, which I think it's too early to have the Fiend lose at all. But something's got to happen because I don't think he ends up with the belt. I think he ends up on Fox for SmackDown.
Yeah, so here we go. Hell in a Cell, the Fiend on a crazy run, obviously. How could you make him lose? Seth Rollins, still a big Universal Champion, a big crowd favorite. Not as favorite now with the Fiend. The Fiend's kind of trumping him lately. And a terrible tweet that went out recently asking you how the match is going to end. And the three choices were pinfall, submission, or DQ. What does a Hell in the Cell match have? Does it have DQs? Because I'm pretty sure there's no DQ in Hell in the Cell.
Well, if you think back, just try to remember when Strowman was going against Roman for the Universal title.
It was a no
Brock
finish.
Lesnar came out there.
No finish.
And they said no finish, but they were announcing DQ because Brock got involved.
Yeah.
And that was the cash in. If it was a no finish, he should have still got his match because the match never ended, but he never got his match back from the cash in because they put it down in the books as a DQ because Brock came out there and got involved. It's stupid. It's never been a thing, but WWE can pull that rule out and say, oh, it's over whenever they want to.
Yep. And that's my concern with this match. I feel like them hinting at the possibility of a DQ in a Hell in a Cell match makes like all the sense in the world is how they're going to finish it, because you cannot bury the Fiend right now. Like, why would you do that? Why would you make him take a pinfall to Seth Rollins right now? Number one. And number two, why would you put the title on the Fiend? It makes no sense. He doesn't need the title. Every bit of his character has nothing to do with that title. He has never spoken of that Universal title the entire time during these promos in this feud, which makes me believe that this match cannot end with the Fiend winning the title. And the only other way that makes sense is if the Fiend just destroys Seth Rollins, to your point, but destroys him so much that he gets DQ'd or just disappears. It's got to be one of those two. There's no way you could put the title on the Fiend. There's no way you could have the Fiend take a pin. So I'm going with Seth Rollins winning this match by some kind of DQ.
Well, they could do it to where they want to get rid of that belt. Maybe, I don't know. It'd be a great way to introduce a different title, but Bray could win it. And on his way out as the Fiend, he looks over and just drops the stupid red thing in the trash and walks out. So there is no Universal title anymore, maybe.
So you're picking a no finish, Steven?
Basically, yeah. I don't think it's going to happen. It makes no sense to have a legit finish either way.
It's a logical pick the way they're doing it right now. Like,
no, it is. And there's
the DQ. The only reason I'm picking DQ is because I jumping on that Twitter vote that they put out there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. I mean, the Fiend is not going to take a pin right now. The Fiend is not going to lose the match. However, the Fiend is not going to win the match. I know it's Hell in a Cell, but I think this thing is going to. I'm not even calling it. I'm calling no contest, where something's going to happen. They're both going to be lying in just a mess of their two bodies, and then something weird is going to happen where like the Fiend, like I think Steve
Heartbeat.
just said, yeah,
Heartbeat.
well, yeah, but
That's your out. Heartbeat.
it is. It
But I
could
thought
be.
that too. But then you put him
But-
on NXT
yeah,
and
but-
let him do
No,
double
no, no,
duty,
no,
right?
no. Okay, well, no. Okay, so
Double duty, right?
Continue, Captain Chuckles.
I was gonna
Invasion.
go with they're just lying there. All of a sudden, the lights go out. You hear the shrieking of Bray's, entrance stuff, and he just disappears. And then it's Rollins just sitting there, no contest. That they're all just like, "What the hell is going on?" And that's it.
I think you're so right with that, by the way.
Ooh.
But let me add in my angle here. So it is going to be a no contest. And Seth Rollins is just going to retain his title because it's going to be a no contest. I talked with Chris about this match a little bit. What I think they need to do is they need to have Seth Rollins really get the jump on the Fiend initially, and like even knock him down, and maybe have him do somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 curb stomps like in a row to him or something like that.
22 curb stops.
And then
22 curb
just
stops
a
in row.
bunch of curb stomps, and maybe even like 5 curb stomps. And then he is just jazzed going towards the corner, in this Hell in a Cell. And as he's jazzed, because he's like, oh, I've curb stomped him 5 times, Bray Wyatt just jumps right up. Boom. He's up. And then he turns around, and then Seth Rollins is just scared crapless because, oh my gosh, how is he up so fast? How can I beat this? How is this possible? And then the lights go out. The lights go out.
I want to tweak it. Instead of him just getting up, he does that weird back bend thing where he's facing you upside down, and Seth turns around into that, and it like knocks him down on his butt in the corner, like Bray did to everybody, but let the Fiend do it to.
I mean, I think it would work either way. I mean, either because it's either that or you're almost saying I'm taking the throne of the Undertaker type character, by having him get up really fast or whatever. But so you then have Bray do some type of a deal where he's being very theatrical, and then he like flings his hands down and the lights go out, and then the screeching starts, and suddenly he's got Rollins in this mandible claw, and he has totally destroyed Rollins, and the lights come back up, and he's getting ready to go over and pin Rollins, and then the lights go out again. Dun, 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 dun. And then all of a sudden, the demon's there. And the Fiend stands up and sees the demon. The demon's on the very top ramp. And to what you're talking about, Chuck, that distracts the Fiend enough that he just turns the lights out later and just disappears. And that's just the no contest. Now, the reason it's not a problem for the demon being on NXT, or, well, I say the demon, Finn Balor being on NXT, is because when do you want that match to happen? WrestleMania, right? Something like that. I mean, that would be like a great WrestleMania match. So instead of doing this thing where we're forced to have this constant match versus the Fiend and the Demon at every single pay-per-view, instead have them stalk each other on each other's shows. It's your way of like, and I know the argument's going to be, well, what about the draft? What about this? What about that? Well, it's just not going to work. It might work for most of their stuff, but the Fiend's too big, so they're going to have to put him on almost every show. So why not have Finn Balor have matches where it gets interfered with by the Fiend? And why not have The Fiend have matches on shows where it gets interfered with by the Demon all the way up until there's like a breaking point, and you're like, no, this is going to be a WrestleMania match.
Dude, if the Fiend showed up at Full Sail, the roof would literally blow off of that building.
It's
it would be
a good idea.
So loud. So loud.
I want to be there for that.
And that's why I think that's the angle that they should take. Because it's a way of getting yourself out of this match without having to win or lose or drop a title. Like, you don't have to worry about wins or losses or anything. You get this really great moment. My bigger problem is this, right? With this card having 4 matches, this Fiend match is not a match that needs to be going for very long. It needs to be short.
Well, based on our angles, yeah, it doesn't seem like it'd be a match to be long.
Well, but based on one of the opinions I've been pushing for a long time, though, is he's not one of those wrestlers right now. I mean, he's got so much great story going, but he's not one of those wrestlers that you're thinking, oh, he can carry like a, this epic 60-minute match. Like,
That's not his gig. No.
Yeah, it's not his gig. So you need to make sure that you story this match up.
Well, in the life of trying to add more to it, we could have like almost like the WrestleMania angle with Brock, where Heyman comes out pissed off because the new reigning, defending, undisputed WWE champion or whatever his spill is doesn't even have a match on the card, and he gets a match with somebody, and even if it's just like a corner beatdown, it could be with the way Fox ended SmackDown. Just give them 15-20 minutes to waste some time and fight a little bit, and then Brock retreat like in the cowardly way, like he's always done with the belt, until they actually have a match. Adding little things in could fill the card, not the card, but fill the night up to where that match doesn't have to be long. Give it 10 minutes and then Bray disappears.
Yeah, just promos, right? Like you could bring out King Corbin and give him some time in the ring, saying he deserves his time as king of the ring, and little promos like that.
STD chant starts out.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna carry that. Yeah. So as we discuss all this and all these angles, I thought of something that probably is pretty darn obvious, but the way WWE is going right now and the way they're pushing Fox right now, it might make a lot of sense to end this match with a showdown of something that we probably never thought we'd finally get. But what if the Undertaker shows up to go face to face with the Fiend to no contest this match, to lead to an Undertaker versus the Fiend and a final passing of the torch of the Undertaker to Bray Wyatt?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Doesn't it seem like they're almost finally going to do that? Like Taker, I give him credit. He had a great last match that he had. He looks a lot better than he has in the past. But it seems to still be time for him to kind of pass on the persona. And
but what justification does the Undertaker have for showing up in that match to ruin it? Bray hasn't attacked him yet. He's attacked Kane, but he hasn't attacked the Undertaker.
There's your justification. He attacked his brother.
Yep.
So that he's attacked legends, he attacked Mankind, he attacked Kane. Those two both have ties to Taker. They're legends. The fact that the Fiend is kind of almost being that other abnormal character that the Taker's always been, just a threatening of this is my character, this is my quote unquote yard. So it'd be interesting, a way to finish the match without finishing the match and lead to a pretty good showdown at, I don't know, Survivor Series seems really fast. Royal Rumble seems really fast. You really got to lengthen that out, because that's a WrestleMania match.
You'll have some disputes at Great Balls of Fire there in the middle.
There's no Great Balls of Fire.
I think
there is.
I think either of those angles are WrestleMania angles in general. And again, they're angles you don't have to speed up, You just slow roll them. Let them do other things. Like, I'd always pushed like Bray Wyatt going after Randy Orton. For Christ's sakes, let him do it. Let him go after Randy Orton. That's good stuff. I don't know. I mean, but that's the card. That's Hell in a Cell. That's all they've got. We even threw in 2 matches that might not even be a thing in there for everybody listening. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I don't think it's going to be just 4 matches like the card shows. I think it's going to be more than that. It's just a matter of what. I don't know.
It's a sad Sunday, man.
I don't know about that. I mean, I
come on now. Think about
if they've got stuff up their sleeve and they're just playing, they're just playing coy with us, then it's not a sad Sunday. Where it's just easy to say it's a sad Sunday early because it looks like it. But what if they, blow your mind later tonight?
I'd be very happy, and as I've always said on this podcast, surprise me. Catch me off guard, and if they do that, great. But it's been a crazy week of wrestling, and this is how we're going to end it. I mean, they got to have something, and if they don't, how flat are we going to fall? Come, with WWE this week. Oh my God, like these amazing premieres and amazing guys just like showing up or interjecting into WWE world, and then we're gonna just fall flat on a 4-match pay-per-view on Sunday. I mean, I'd be pissed if I had a ticket to that.
How far away is Survivor Series?
Not far. It's like in November, isn't it?
Well,
The end of
it is
November.
premiere week. Maybe we have some people invade the show because they don't get accreditation and anything, and you have NXT show up and destroy a match to try to prove a point that they are next. They are what's the new big deal, and do almost like an invasion angle to start a 3-way elimination match for Survivor Series.
I've been begging for that all year. I feel like giving NXT the stage and letting them be part of their own team and having 3-way Survivor Series matches.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the problem, though. Oh God.
No, you don't get to have a problem.
No, here's the problem.
Yes, that's a great idea.
He is the problem.
Here's my problem with that, and it's not necessarily a problem, but it's just like, God, those other 2 women are not ready for it. You have everybody from the 4 horsewomen.
I wasn't saying women.
But I'm saying you have everybody from you have all 4 of the horsewomen in this pay-per-view. And if you're doing an invasion angle, man, does it make sense to have the UFC 4 horsewomen invade, especially with Fox having started it up.
I think that match gets done at WrestleMania. I don't think that's a Survivor Series match. I think that's a way to have all those women on WrestleMania without having the women's title on the line. I don't think that happens. I think you have maybe like the Undisputed Era come out, and this could be a way to do the whole Bray Seth match as a no contest. They come out before that match. Just do like when NXT first showed up with when they took out Cena and everything. They just rip apart and destroy the ring where the next match cannot happen.
No, that's dumb. The reason
that final match other than a no contest makes sense.
No, but
it'll be a chance.
Yeah,
throw something new out.
No, that just doesn't work though. It doesn't work on for multiple reasons. First of all, it's way too exactly like the first time that NXT did that. That's my first problem with it. And the second problem with it is you really want to piss people off? You really want to piss people off at a pay-per-view? Take away the headline match that people have been buzzing about, whether for the good or the bad. Just totally take it away from them in that way. No, there are better ways of taking care of business. That's not the right way to go. I mean, if I'm wrong and you're right and that happens, then I don't even know what to say.
There's too much dead time and free space out there for not to do something crazy.
I agree, but that's not the craziness. Not that. You have them do that on like an episode of Fox or something, building towards Survivor Series. You don't have them do that at Hell in a Cell.
But I dispute the idea that you are like, oh, they've already did that storyline. That's the exact same
I
storyline. That's
no,
exactly
it's
what they do, man. They
I
just
know that.
rewrite the
I
same
know.
storyline with
Well,
different
I
people.
know, and I know we say that a lot, but that one is way too on the nose. Like, no, this is exactly what NXT did before. So why are you going to have NXT do the exact same thing that they did before that at that point? That
'Cause it
one's
worked.
that one's too on the nose for me personally, and I don't actually think that they would do it from that perspective. It's just my
Right.
opinion. I mean, if it happens, it happens, and I'll come on here and say that I was wrong. And guess what? I can guarantee you, I'll hate it. I don't even care how cool it is. I'll be like, no, this is dumb. Why are we doing this? It's too on the nose. I'll just repeat everything that I've just said.
I think something crazy is gonna happen.
Can
And
I?
it might be like I said, with Bray comes out there, Brock comes out there, and he's trying to prove a point that he doesn't have a match, and then all of a sudden maybe somebody from NXT comes up to challenge him, or maybe somebody returns to challenge him. There's something crazy is gonna happen tonight. Something has to.
Can I throw out an angle to you guys that I was thinking about the other day? I've been watching a lot of wrestling, obviously, and some of the old wrestling, and I was thinking about some of the cooler angles that I'd seen in the past, and one of them being like that old ECW angle where Taz made his own belt, and so he was always carrying his own belt around. You guys remember that angle?
Oh, well, hold on.
Yeah.
Can I preface this, James? Can I preface this?
Uh-oh.
Jimmy has told me this already. Guys, this is gold. Like, this might be the best idea he's come up with since we've started this podcast. So I want you guys to listen because honestly, he's on to something here.
So before you go, just anybody listening, this is copyright the Bald Monkeys podcast.
Yes.
Any use of this idea will come with a SmackDown.
So you have this character lately in Cesaro who has been losing a lot lately. And so my thought for an angle that uses kind of like, an interesting like video package is that you have Cesaro being taped as he goes to the main corporate headquarters of WWE, and he goes up there to meet Vince and Triple H, and they sit him down and they basically talk about how, okay, so we were talking about contract negotiations, but they can just make this up, by the way, that his contract's coming up or whatever, but your contract's coming to an end, and you haven't been performing the way that we think you should have, so we're thinking we're gonna let you go. And Cesaro, of course, is pissed off because he feels like he's a great wrestler who gets put into bad angles. Like, you basically kind of break that kayfabe wall a little bit. So what he does then is he's starting to leave corporate headquarters, and you see him on security footage, and he's kind of like walking pissed off, and he like walks past this display, and he kind of looks at it, and he keeps walking, and then all of a sudden he stops. And then he walks back and he looks at the display again. And then he walks over and he grabs a chair and he smashes the display. And you see him grab a belt and then run out of corporate headquarters. And then later on, everybody's like buzzing, like, oh, we saw this footage and it looked like, Cesaro took a belt and we don't know what's going on, and, this, that, and the other thing. And so then Cesaro comes on to whatever show you're going to put him on, and he comes in and he's got like, like a robe or something to just cover whatever's over his waist. And he goes out there and he cuts a promo where he's like, I'm sick of this company. I'm sick of, them putting me in these stupid angles. He's like, I'm tired of, bending to the will of, Vince McMahon and Triple H and just doing whatever they tell me to do. And so, until my contract's over, I'm gonna, I'm never gonna, sit down for anybody. I'm gonna take on anybody who wants to fight me. And if you want to come out here and you want to face me, then maybe you can win this from me. And he pulls his robe off and he's wearing the European Championship. And I'm thinking that they need to do that right away, because I think Cesaro, deserves a push, but if they don't want to give him, these title shots, why not do something kind of cheeky like that? And then have him go on a run, man. Have him go on an epic run, because he's a great wrestler.
I like it, and with the more content each week, it gives another angle to fight for stuff, and it gives a little bit more prestige to things. Because we've talked about it before. It's not that they need more titles, but they need more mid-card angles. Because having on just 2 titles, you get the same wish-washy matches all the time. Adding another belt in there that's not the hardcore or the 24/7 championship could add some more credibility to some of the lower card matches.
And, and it is exactly, in theory, like I said, was talking about that Taz angle, that it is an angle that I've thought about that's kind of spun out of that same type of cloth, because you probably culminate that Cesaro push with actually giving him a title shot eventually, where he unifies. We say he unifies, but it's not actually like, a sanctioned European title, but it is the official European title because he stole it.
I love it because I love what it could turn into. Just him just showing up at shows, almost invading shows whenever he feels like it. Like his music just hits and he's at NXT. His music just hits and he's at UK. His music hits and he's at the Cruiserweight. Who cares? Like, he just shows up everywhere with that title, just taking over WWE and saying, you know what, I'm not waiting for my chance anymore. I'm taking it. And I love it. And as soon as he said it, I was like, oh man, like this could be a really good angle for a really good wrestler that deserves it.
And like you said, that deserves it. Cesaro deserves it. He's been a consistent worker. It makes sense to do something like this for him. And he's
a Swiss cyborg, man.
What do you think, Chuckles? Does it pass the test?
I love it. I think it's a great idea. We always have talked about Cesaro being, kind of the lovable loser in a way, where he always loses, his matches, this way or that way. But he is one of the top actual, wrestlers in, WWE. So the whole thing, I'm just pictured it in my head. It just sounds perfect.
Yeah, and I probably didn't do a great job of explaining it, but I tried.
Yeah, you did it better yesterday or whatever it was a couple days ago.
Let me tell you, folks, there was a lot of flipping wrestling this week. A lot of it. And
it's not over yet.
I want to throw one more thing into that little Kofi rant that I was doing at the beginning. The thing I think that makes it the most infuriating is if you had just done to Kofi what you did to Dominic, it would have been fine. That would have made the angle right. That was a great spot on Raw when he grabs Dominic and he just starts beating the hell out of him. I was like, oh man, Dominic's taking some bumps.
Wait, well, how do you do that to Kofi though?
No,
for a second, I'm like, you can't do that. I'm like, you can't do that to one of Kofi's.
Make it
kids.
last longer than
5
seconds.
When I say, it's not. I'm not saying like, I'm not saying it's the exact same thing, Chris. I'm saying like you just beat the hell out of him. Like he beat the hell out of Dominic. He beat the hell out of Ray. It's like that's what you needed to do to Kofi. You didn't need to just, it's not. In this world of like, we need to get past this finisher kayfabe with the F5 where one F5 just downs a person.
They were just making time for Kane to come out like that.
It was
they
going
had
to
to bring
1
out
minute.
Velasquez.
It would have taken 1 minute.
No, but look how long it took. Look how much time they allocated to that. And if you noticed, they took too much time. Like Brock like wanted to get off camera at the end. There's actually a couple of images of him trying to get off the camera there where he's like, "Are we done? Are we done?" Like he's trying to get off camera and get back to the back. Like they took too much time setting that up.
Yeah, and guess what? They could have used that extra minute or two to have him just beat the hell out of Kofi. And it would have made the angle fine.
Or just told Cain Velasquez to keep his shirt on.
That too. I think that last spot after the match was over and Velasquez came out, it was about like 7 minutes. And it seemed about 4 minutes too long.
Yeah.
4 hours too long. It just took forever, man. It just dragged out. It's like, okay, he's outside the ring. Okay, he's inside the ring. Okay, they're beating each other. Brock's getting beat up. Okay, Brock runs away. Okay, Brock's leaving. Okay, maybe Brock's coming back in. Maybe he's coming. No, he's not coming back in. Oh, maybe he's coming back in. Maybe he's coming back. No, he's not coming back in. And Velasquez is just standing in the ring, like doing nothing. And the amount of time they put a close up on his face and he's just staring into nothing, like he didn't look mean. He didn't look anything. Maybe that's why he wears a mask all the time on the independent circle. It's like, dude, you have no reaction on your face whatsoever.
He looks Cain Velasquez.
Very boring looking, man. Like, I get why he's wearing a mask. Like, I almost feel like they did that on purpose, or he did that on purpose. Maybe he's self-aware and he's just like, I don't have great facial expressions, because he doesn't. You know, the old joke that like Shinsuke, that Nakamura was always like, oh, Shinsuke's got great facial expressions. Well, Cain Velasquez has no facial expressions. Zero.
One extreme to the other with those two.
You know what I found this week that's really kind of annoyed me? And, you know, it's definitely...
Besides the Kofi F5? Okay, go ahead.
It's... Well, no. It's this weird kind of like division that I don't understand about within the wrestling community about this whole WWE AEW stuff. Like, what I want the wrestling community to do is to just embrace good wrestling. Whether or not you're into something, but even like I even saw this within our text chats where, you know, Nakamura was like, I don't get the appeal of AEW. And I'm just like, how much have you watched of it? I was like, you know, it's this weird thing where like sometimes like people have been like getting like, and I follow like on social media and stuff, and like fans like demonize other fans over liking AEW too much or liking WWE too much, and creating this division where you have to pick NXT or pick AEW. Can I pick both? Aren't they both good? They were both good this week. Like, why must I have to, you know, fold over and say, oh no, there's a clear winner and the winner is so and so? Like, can't everybody be winners at this point? I think both brands had a very good week. So why do we feel like we're forced to create this division between the two of them as fans? We're fans, right?
Because unfortunately, I think that's what, I don't know if I want to term it as super fans, but I feel like that's what super fans of one or the other portray out into social media. And then it kind of becomes almost an infectious thing where people who are tired with the road that WWE was taking are now like, well, F you, WWE, you know, you guys do the same things all the time. You suck. Rather than just embracing like, okay, well, that's what WWE does, and I'm going to check out AEW. They just throw WWE in front of the bus and say, I'm not going to do anything with you guys anymore. I'm going to back AEW because, you know, because they say this and that's what I believe in. And like, I feel that's kind of what happens out there. Meanwhile, like, hey, it was a great week of wrestling, so much that I just watched SmackDown this morning because there was so much going on with other things as well. But I mean, it is a very exciting time to be a wrestling fan, not just a WWE fan or an AEW fan or whatever you're watching. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan.
No, and I agree with that statement, and I think what we're coming to is there's passionate fans out there, which is good. It's good that people are getting passionate about the brand, whatever brand they're into, whether it be NXT, whether it be WWE, whether it be AEW, whether it be Impact, whether it be Ring of Honor, New Japan, whatever it might be. People are getting very passionate about what they're gonna back, what wrestling they're gonna back, and it's good for wrestling. It's great for wrestling. It's going to create these wars that don't exist. It's going to create these battles that really aren't even out there right now. That I think the wrestling will get better because of it. I think they're not creating it on purpose. It's just kind of creating from these ridiculous social media passionate fans. So let's ride it, whatever. Like I don't hate the fact that there's these battles going on social media. I laugh at it a little bit because I agree with you, Jimmy. It's like wrestling's great, whatever. Who cares what it is? Who cares what you're a fan of? But there's just idiots out there that are going to get more excited about one than the other because they feel like they have some kind of, I don't know, allegiance to AEW. And I think that's the biggest one right now, where it's like, I have allegiance to AEW, so I'm not going to go and love WWE because I have allegiance to AEW. And then there's the AEW, like, older fans that are like, I've been watching WWE forever, so I'm not going to pick up on this new stuff that's not, pure and different. So it's ultimately, I think we agree. It's good for wrestling. We'll love it. We'll talk about it. We'll watch as much as we can. To Chuck's point, try to keep up with it because it's crazy. We've even talked about this offline. We're probably not all going to watch everything. We're probably going to divide and conquer a little bit because we're going to have to. There's too much wrestling. It's a great problem to have. I mean, I'm even joked about it with the boss, Steven. We got some local wrestling coming up that it's like, it's possibly worth going to see. We'll go see any wrestling that's out there because wrestling is wrestling and wrestling is fun.
Could you ever imagine in some crazy alternate universe a multi-cross promotional pay-per-view or event where it's just the best from WWE, the best from AEW, the best from Impact, the best from Ring of Honor, the best from New Japan, like all just in like one big kumbaya wrestling event? It will never happen, but like how awesome would something like that be?
It would be pretty awesome. And I don't know that it's too much of a stretch to think of that maybe happening, but WWE wouldn't be involved.
Yeah, exactly.
And they have the track record to show that they wouldn't be involved in that.
It would be a long day of wrestling, right? Like you couldn't do it with just like one show, like one 4-hour episode. It would have to be like 8 hours of wrestling.
If it was a full day and it was a charity event, they might actually do it.
Yeah, that would be cool.
WrestleCon or something, one of the big wrestling events that they do, and just do all proceeds go to some great charity event.
And then if you really want to make WWE commit to it, you let it allow WWE to put it on. I think that's the kicker, is that they put it on. They, put out this like, oh, we're going to invite everybody in and we're going to have cross promotional wrestling matches and all the proceeds are going to go to charity, and they're, it's during the summertime at some crazy big venue. Yeah, that could work. I
I
could
think
see
they've
it.
been kind of teasing that a little bit with some of like the festivals, right? Like a lot of wrestling's been going on at some of these rock festivals. It's almost like they're teasing that, even Worlds Collide is a bit of a tease where it's like we're bringing together multiple different areas of wrestling to wrestle each other.
Yeah.
Or what's the Evolve? Evolve's been getting a lot of the NXT guys to wrestle because they came from there and there's a partnership there. And even what's the partnership AEW has with the Mexican wrestling division? Which one is it?
Lucha Libre AAA or whatever.
AAA. There it is.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, like the partnerships that's going on right now could lead to something interesting.
Ooh, I'm just going to say this and I'm just going to let you guys talk. Are you guys ready? You ready for it?
Ready for you to let me talk? Yeah, sure.
Yep. Okay, right. I'm just going to say this and then I'm just going to let you guys talk. You ready? Announce teams. Go.
Hated it.
Oh my! Like what happened? Why? What Raw? Well, poor Raw. Let's put it that way. Poor Raw.
Yeah, I
Vic
agree.
Joseph. Love Vic Joseph.
Yeah,
I'm not putting down Vic Joseph
he's a
one
shining
bit.
spot.
He's great. He's always been great. I think he's got a great future ahead of him. The other guy, what's his name? Because I know Lawler, but what's the other guy's name? Dane or something like that?
Dido.
Dido.
I don't even
Potential.
know. I
Potential.
totally.
Not awful.
Like I think he'd be great, like addition to 205 announced team if they were still going to be their own, or even NXT. But I like the NXT group right now. But Jerry Lawler does not belong on weekly television. I'm not going to say I hate Jerry Lawler because Jerry Lawler holds a special place in all of our hearts because he's been
Nostalgia.
around a long time, and he was a lot of fun back in the day when he was on the announced team with Jim Ross, Vince McMahon, even the coach. Like that crew holds a special place. But it's over unless it's a special event like Crown Jewel. You don't belong on a weekly television, Jerry. Like you just don't. Your jokes are old. Your jokes are terrible. And you don't even know who's in the ring, it feels like. And the lead up that he was building for the Fiend on Monday night was like, okay, dude, we understand the feed's coming. You don't have to give it away all night long. Oh, it feels weird in here. I just feel it. I feel it. Okay, yeah, we get it. You feel it. We get it. You got jumped by the Fiend. We get it. He's coming. He's coming every single show you guys can put him on. But that announced team on Raw was just awful. And the SmackDown one, I'm fine with. I hate the fact that Renee's not out there right now. I think she should be. I liked the combination of Cole, Graves, and Renee, but the Raw one's the one that stands out as the one that needs to be fixed immediately.
Charlie
Yeah.
Caruso. Take Jerry Lawler's spot. Let's do it.
You were supposed to let us talk. Stop talking.
Caruso for life. Keep talking.
I completely agree. I mean, that was one of the first things I said after like maybe the first 20-25 minutes of the show was I hate the Raw announce team as a group of three. I do not like them. I don't think they work. Now, I'm not defending Jerry Lawler at all, but he did say that it's not his favorite thing to do anymore. Um, but then why would you take the gig in a way? Like if it's not like what you want to do, you don't want to commentate anymore, you don't like the schedule, you don't like the travel, whatever it is, why would you take it? And hopefully it's a short term, thing before they throw somebody else into um before you throw somebody else into the fold of being the third person or whatever, whoever it will be, and then Wednesday night comes and I watched NXT after. I devoted my Wednesday night to AEW with their premiere and everything. And then I listened to their announced team and I'm like, dude, is this WCW? Because it totally felt like it. Now, I will preface this by saying I did not watch a lot of the previous AEW, the pay-per-views and the Bleacher Report stuff and all that kind of junk. but oh my God, was their announced team terrible? Like Tony Schiavone, dude, go away.
That's the
Jim
one.
Ross, I love you. Nostalgia, go away. I kind of actually liked the Excalibur guy. I thought he was pretty good. Like he could develop into something, I don't know about the mask on there, but that's his persona. That's fine. But oh my God, the announced team WCW, the videography WCW. I was like, dude, WCW didn't win the first time. Why in God's name are we trying to do almost the same replica this time around in 2019, 2020 coming around here? I mean, God, give it up. Go find somebody else. Holy shit. So much so, this is my little rant, so much so that one of the freaking security guys that were in the back during, I forget what spot of breaking people up. I think it was when they were talking to a couple of the tag teams. Dude, one of the security guys was, I swear to God, one of the old security guys from freaking WCW. I was like, dude, holy cow, can we give it up? Anyway, I'm off my soapbox now.
Well, you hit on it, Chuck, because I think I've watched all of the AEW stuff that I've been able to grab onto, and the announce team has been pretty well okay up until Wednesday night. And the reason I think Wednesday night went so poorly with the announce team is the addition of Tony Schiavone. He didn't belong on that announce team. It almost took them backwards, to your point, to WCW. His voice is just way too WCW. His voice is synonymous with that, and it's like putting him out there kills your attention, kills what you're watching. It almost feels like you're so stuck on listening to him going, why do I, well, his voice is echoing in my head, and he was giving nothing. He was giving nothing to the matches. Jim Ross, was trying to give something. And again, I feel like it shows how much WWE does prior to shows, how much studying and package time and production time that they put to their shows versus where AEW is. AEW is in its infant stage. Give them time, they'll get better. But the addition of Tony Schiavone, the addition of what they were trying to do there, it wasn't working at all.
Get rid of them. And like the other thing, I brought it up really quickly, but I said this, I might have said this in the text chain. I might have said this to Chris individually, but earlier in the week, I had been going back on the network and watching some of the old WCW stuff, some of the old matches that they have on there from all the different territories and everything. And in watching a couple of the WCW matches and then watching AEW, like WWE is polished when it comes to their videography, I feel.
Definitely. Yep.
And like WCW, they always had like 30 guys around the ring and guys jumping up on the apron to get these like crazy camera shots, and like guys running around here, and like it was the same exact thing on Wednesday night. And I was like, wow, it's just so ironic that I was watching this earlier in the week and now I'm seeing the same stuff again. It was crazy. I mean, also AEW, you need to get better chairs that actually like fold and break. Because that power bomb
You
on
don't
the
like the
chairs,
padded chair?
ouch, man, they didn't even budge. Those chairs said, F you, I'm not going anywhere. And then those like those 2x4 wood tables that they made around ringside, again, holy shit, dude, like they barely broke, and I felt bad for the guys that got put through them.
Cody got put through twice, right? Cody got put through the chairs, and then
The
later on the
chair,
night, that
yep.
weird like table
Oh.
setup that just didn't even budge. It just like collapsed underneath his back.
I think it's a good I think that's a good like kudos to them though from the hardcore standpoint. I mean the
Yeah,
AEW is a little bit more hardcore, and they are TV 14. Now I don't know that there was anything TV 14 about that first AEW episode, except for maybe like they had Jack Hager or whatever get into the ring, and then it showed a fan like flicking him off, which I thought was hysterical.
Yeah, we're going back to that TV 14 thing where we're gonna show the fans reacting. We're gonna hear them curse constantly. So I enjoy that part of AEW.
That's
But
real
pivot
wrestling.
to yeah. Pivot to NXT announced team. I want to give them props because I think they found something really really perfect in that trio on NXT. You have a good mix of characters, a good mix of voices on NXT, and I think they've done a really good job putting that together. And I think that's the right crew over there.
Yeah, and also kudos to everybody in DC. I thought the fans at AEW were great. I mean, they were so
amazing.
pumped. They were into it. The, I mean, the chants just, I mean, resonated on TV so well. So good job, DC, Baltimore. Maryland.
I heard that after SmackDown Live went off, that there was a big AEW chant.
Oh man,
How about
You're
dark
gonna hear a lot of
matches?
that.
How about dark
yes,
matches?
AEW dark matches.
That's a cool thing.
That was I was really excited about that text that you sent out. The AEW Dark. So where's that going to air? That's an interesting thing they're doing.
I think it's a YouTube thing. So I think you can go onto their YouTube and actually watch these matches on YouTube.
So they're going to have dark matches before their events on Wednesday, and then they're going to show them on Tuesday the following week, which would combat with the Tuesday Impact airing. I would assume.
They might be trying to
in general.
They're probably trying to battle WWE backstage more than Impact. Like Impact, I don't think anybody who's putting content on Tuesdays to battle Impact, and that's nothing against Impact. I mean, Impact has never been hasn't been one of the big players for a while. Impact right now, they're in a stretch where they're on Axis, but they're showing pay-per-views. So they just showed Homecoming, and they're going to show a few different pay-per-views up until the 29th, and the 29th is when the actual live show starts happening on Impact, or it's taped. I think it's taped.
I was gonna say it's not gonna be live.
It'll be taped, but there are some fun wrestlers in Impact still. Some wrestlers that were WWEers that got themselves into trouble, so they're talented wrestlers with shaky pasts and stuff like that. I mean, that tends to be what Impact ends up being. And then the people who do really well in Impact, they kind of get cherry picked and plucked and put into different brands. I wouldn't be surprised if Tessa Blanchard's going to eventually end up on one of the brands. The question is going to be who's going to win her.
It would make sense for her on AEW.
She needs to be on AEW. They need her very bad,
and I think she would work really well over there.
So before we move on, we brought up Impact was showing other pay-per-views. I brought up the pay-per-view schedule earlier while we were discussing when Survivor Series was. Now Survivor Series is on November 24th. The day before that is the NXT TakeOver War Games. Now we know we have Hell in a Cell tonight, October 6th. Now the next one that they have on their schedule is Crown Jewel. Now I don't know about you guys, but I don't really think of Crown Jewel as a real pay-per-view, because it's kind of like a male super show for Saudi Arabia, in my opinion.
It's a giant house show. Absolutely.
Yeah. So now, so if we take Crown Jewel out of the equation, we go almost over a month and a half before a real pay-per-view to get to like TakeOver and Survivor Series. Then after that, it's like pay-per-view for all, because on the 24th you have Survivor Series. On December 1st there's Starrcade, and on December 15th there's TLC. It's like, what in the world is going on with this pay-per-view schedule here? It's crazy.
Did you mention NXT War Games too?
Yeah, I mentioned that in there with the Survivor Series. Yeah, it's
Okay.
crazy. I mean, there's 4
Yeah.
pay-per-views in 2.5, 3 weeks.
And I think there's like a Worlds Collide coming up too. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
that's
they're
the
jamming
end
them
of
all together.
January.
Yeah. Well, that's right. Yeah, that's what they're shoving in there before Royal Rumble. But yeah, it's good. The end of the year here is going to be pay-per-view, pay-per-view, pay-per-view. I feel like there's 2 things that can happen. One, they could be very smart and listen to us and not put everybody on every show and build new storylines and share them across these pay-per-views. Or 2, they're going to jam in just the stupidest storylines over and over again over these next few pay-per-views, and we're going to get nowhere through the end of the year. So there's no in between. I feel like it's going to go that one of the 2 ways.
Yeah, exactly. One way or the other. WWE is going to either blow it, or they could come out looking pretty.
Now, I feel AEW's got a couple things coming before the end of the year as well, Jimmy, right? Like there's
November
is it Full
9th
Gear?
is Full Gear.
Yeah. And then beyond that, what do they have lined up besides just the live shows?
I am not
know if they have
100%
anything else
sure. I don't
lined
know
up.
that they have anything else. I know that Impact is Bound for Glory on the 20th of this month.
I love that they still have Bound for Glory. Like Impact really like is like Slammiversary, right? And like Bound for Glory. Like they're committed to what they name their stuff.
Yeah. So
it'll be interesting. I think the one thing that I'm nervous about with AEW is putting on a weekly live show is going to be, I think, tougher for them. I think they started out strong, obviously, but I'm hoping they can keep the momentum going, because there's no way you could keep it where you just did at the premiere. It's gonna go down a little bit, but just keep it interesting going forward. Otherwise, you're gonna lose this thing pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, but think
going
of
up against NXT.
Think of everything we didn't see, right? Like, so they had. Let me look here real quick. Cody versus Guevara, MJF versus Cutler, Pac versus Hangman, Riho versus Rose, and then they had a 6-man tag team match. So 5 matches in 2 hours. If you want to put on really good matches and just put 5 matches in 2 hours, I mean, I know they can't really put pay-per-view level matches on all the time because they have pay-per-views, and it's part of the way that business model has to work. So that's a little bit tricky.
Well, they got the tag tournament starting up.
Yes. Yeah,
this week, so that'll
compelling.
fill a lot of space for the next month. That'll be interesting up until I'm guessing they'll probably get it at Full Gear, right? Like is where the title will finally be named.
Yeah, probably. I'm thinking it's on that pace. Yeah, and you had a boy and his dinosaur. We didn't even see them on the first AEW episode, and they're arguably Luchasaurus is the most over thing, or the most over new thing in AEW. I'm not going to say that it's more over than like Kenny Omega, but because Kenny's super popular, and John Moxley's super popular.
Yeah. They jammed in a lot into that first one, and now it's like, make sure you spread it out now. Make sure you let your storylines take time. And I think it's actually, I know we've talked about it as a negative, I think in the chat a little bit about how it's hard to understand the storylines in AEW, but I almost feel like that's a good thing. Like it's almost like it's new to you every week. You're like, oh, what storyline is this? Oh, I have to go figure it out. Oh, I have to go look up what happened to this point.
Yeah,
I think that would benefit them to do it that way, because then it would get people interested. It would get them more hits on social media. Yeah, you have to go on social media to keep up with what's going on with some of these storylines, but don't force it. Don't put everybody's face on there every single week like WWE has. That's hurt them. Make it a little bit like, oh, where are they? Who is this? Where'd they come from? That interest will force people to take it upon themselves to go look.
Yeah, I think that was something that Creamy Kramer said, right? Where he said he liked the Jericho match, but he didn't really get the story of the other matches, so it just seemed like they were wrestling matches. Well, my counter argument to that would be go watch any wrestling show that you've never watched before. It's just a bunch of matches.
Yeah.
There is story there, and it's through like YouTube and Twitter and all the different pay-per-views. So if you're not caught up on them and you just watched AEW for the first time when they were on TNT, yeah, there's going to be some things that you don't understand. But some of those spots were important, for a person who's never watched AEW before to have John Moxley attack Kenny Omega. They don't know who either of those people are, maybe, and now you know that this guy named John Moxley has a problem with Kenny Omega. And
He's got some beef with them.
yeah, he's got some issue with him. And so, let the games begin between those two.
But we Jimmy, you always talk about what's working and what's not working. And for me on Wednesday, and this could just be me, what wasn't working was that women's title match on
Really?
AEW.
I thought it was actually okay.
I thought the match as a whole was a good match. And I said this to Chris when we talked during the week. I said, it was unbelievable. And he said, unbelievable? I said, yeah, like, I don't believe that a chick who is the weight of a paperclip can take on a beast of a girl like Nyla Rose. Like, that is just unbelievable. And it's something that goes back to, like, and I said it to Chris, it's like a jobber thing. It's the big male wrestler guy going up against the little scrawny jobber guy, and the big male wrestler guy destroys him. I'm like, in no world, I don't care how fast, how strong Riho is or anything, there's no way in hell that she would ever actually win that match. Now I know it's entertainment, it's wrestling, but give me a freaking break. I mean, come on. Like, dude, Rose could have just picked her up one time, just body slammed her right down, and that would have been it. I mean, there's no way in hell that this little Asian girl is beating her. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's the one thing was that they did the picture in the picture at one point. Hey, and kudos to AEW for the picture in the picture. They did that like a bunch. Like every single time they had to go to commercial break and there was something going on for the most part, they were doing picture in a picture. And WWE does that sometimes, but they don't do it all the time. I don't know that aspect of it bothered me that much. There was definitely a point where Nyla Rose does the spot where she jumps off of the turnbuckle and then hits Riho, who's hanging over the rope, and absolutely destroys her. Like that happened during the picture in the picture. That should have been match over at that point. I mean, it was devastating. That being said, I don't know that match didn't work for me. The thing that didn't work for me was the belt. I hate that belt. Yeah. That belt is awful.
It looks like a toy. It looks like one of like the styrofoam belts you get from Target. Like, it looks so terrible. It's so tiny.
Yeah.
How big the AEW Men's Championship is how small that one is.
Yeah. But you had Britt Baker out there on the joining the announce team, and so when you look at those three women, you add in there's a handful more. It's going to get interesting if they ever get Tessa Blanchard. Obviously, she's going to get pushed to the moon, but I don't know. I mean, the women's division. I mean, we'll see what they do with it. They'll see what they do with that angle. I thought the AEW night as a whole was pretty successful. I think the MJF Cutler match wasn't very good, but I'm not sure. Either he got injured on the turnbuckle, and they had to end it early. But to Chris's point, when I had talked to him earlier in the week, like it wasn't like it was that good of a match anyway up to that point. MJF has a great character. But it maybe wasn't the best fit for him for as far as a match goes. But I thought most of the matches, with the exception of that one, all the rest of them were good. Really, I'll just say that they were good.
Yeah, it was as a show as a whole, it was a solid B coming out the first night. I don't think it was crazy to go any higher than that, and it definitely wasn't terrible, but it was a solid B. And I even said the same thing to Chris about the MJF character. I mean, it's a perfect mix of all those guys that you always hated growing up watching in WWF, WWE, WCW, and everything.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because MJF, he hates on comic book nerds, and he's hated for it, and then The Rock hates on comic book nerds, and he's loved for it. It's kind of interesting, right?
Different level of superstar.
Yeah, true. Also preaching to different types of people. AEW definitely, especially the crowds, and it'll change, but I think the crowds initially, you're talking like a much different breed of person than the WWE crowd. I mean, the hardcore people are in that WWE crowd, but there's also a lot of not hardcore people in that WWE crowd. But that's the beauty, man. The diversity of wrestling, fan. I don't know. I think overall it was great. Great week for wrestling. I'm interested to see how Hell in the Cell goes down tonight. I'm interested to see how the draft shakes everything up next Friday. And, it's great to be recording this podcast on Sunday morning, but it'll be great when we don't have to record it on a Sunday morning and we can do it at another time.
One day we'll get back to normal.
Sadly, Big Baby Jimmy's schedule isn't great right now, but hey, still waking up early and getting it done because of the love. So, real quick before we leave, anything that you guys have been looking forward to in wrestling? Anything you want to see?
So, something I didn't know I wanted to see, but I was kind of intrigued by the whole Tyson Fury Braun Strowman thing. Like, that's a big dude, and I like all the hate I put on Cain Velasquez. I'll give love to Tyson Fury. I think that's an interesting little spin that they could build up towards WrestleMania, obviously, because that's a WrestleMania caliber match if you're going to put Tyson Fury up against Braun Strowman. But I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm interested to see what he's going to say with a mic on Raw. I'll see what his mic skills are in a wrestling ring. I know he's got pretty good mic skills outside of a wrestling ring in the real fighting world, but it'll be interesting. I didn't know I wanted to see it, but kudos to WWE for throwing something in there that was surprising and interesting.
And everybody listening, go ahead and call him a hypocrite in the comments. That's fine.
I'm only a hypocrite if I don't talk about everything at once. Just talk about everything, and that way I cover every angle.
There you go.
And then you can't call me a hypocrite.
This is true. How about you, Chuck?
Yeah. Fury is huge. I couldn't believe how big he was when Strowman was standing in front of him. I mean, that was crazy. But I'm looking forward to seeing what happens tonight in the men's Hell in a Cell match, just to see, are they going to ruin things or are they going to keep it going? And that's what I'm looking forward to. And this has been something that has been on my mind for like the past couple of weeks, and it's nothing that we have to discuss today, of course, or ever. But whatever happened to managers and valets? Just something I've been thinking about. Anyway,
sounds like a good thing to talk about for sure. Well, maybe we'll hit that next week, because that's
good load up for next week.
That's a big ass topic. That being said, I think the one thing that's been on my mind, which is kind of controversial, is and I mentioned this earlier. Don't hate this Bobby Lashley angle. I don't hate it at all. I really like. It was definitely that awkward moment where like, oh my gosh, they're up there kissing and they just won't stop kissing and it just keeps going. Like the hold on that was like, okay, this is a little bit like weird.
Awkward.
But that being said, as shocked as I was about it, that angle was receiving so much hate on social media. Like everybody was hating on it. But I was really not trying to, put my opinion out there too much about it until I got a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more educated on it, I guess. And again, like Steven was talking about that, man, I'm telling you what, on social media, like Lana's all about the angle, Lashley's all about the angle, Rusev's playing up the angle. So, hey, if they're down for it, I'm down for it. Again, it's not a matter of, how quality at this point. It's like how quality is your story is not my issue with WWE. It's just making sure you hold to it. So even if it's not the greatest story in the world, keep it up. Keep it up. That's what's important. You have created a buzz with this story, and the biggest complaint that I've come after WWE with time and time again is, it's not that you don't totally care about stories, it's that you just don't care about stories with anybody below a certain level, which is a pretty high level. It's like, oh, the top 2 or 3 stories, and then we don't care about anything else. So, keep it up. It's interesting enough, And I hope you didn't bury King Corbin. And where's the King Corbin shirt, WWE? I have to get Chuckles one of these King Corbin shirts. It's necessary.
King Corbin.
Yeah.
I actually called them and spoke to Vince for a little bit, and I said, listen, you guys can't put the shirt out. It's just not happening. And he said, hey, yeah, for you, buddy, no problem.
Yeah, for you, buddy, even better, we're going to get you a shirt that says STD. That's going to be your new shirt, and that's what we're going to get you.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens tonight too. After that Kofi thing, that Kofi angle really upset me, and I've was ready for Kofi to drop the belt. So it's not that I wasn't ready for him to drop the belt. It's just the way they did it.
Like that. Yeah, like that.
And so the fear, I think, of a lot of WWE fans at this point is that Seth Rollins is just going to beat Bray Wyatt. And that is literally the worst thing you could possibly do. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but that's been our time. However, and wherever you're listening to us, we appreciate it. I want to have a shout out to the wrestling community on social media and stuff like that. They're absolutely fantastic. And, I look forward to interacting with them in the future. They've been really great to me in particular. But that's been our time. The boss left. The boss, Stephen Hill, he left early. I am Big Baby Jimmy. Christopher, say something.
Something.
There you go. And then we also have Captain Chuckles.
Peace out, people.
We are the normal people of the Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast. We appreciate you listening. Have a good day.